what's up? Back with another video, and today we're gonna find out the compression numbers on this piece of shit. So I was actually supposed to do a compression test at about 1,000 miles after assembling this engine and installing it and whatever. And well, kind of put that off for a bit. And let's see, right now I am sitting at 166,525 miles. So I installed this engine at exactly 161,269 miles. But I'm not going to be doing this compression test with just any tester. Instead, let's see where I put, oh, right there. Instead, I'm going to be using the best aftermarket compression tester you can buy today. That is the rotarycompressiontester.com tester. And flip this over, show you what's in the box. And of course, you got your tester itself. You got the little sensor, some extra O-rings. There is a microfiber cleaning cloth that comes with it too, but it kind of, well, you can't close this as well with it in, but you get that too. And you got a little extension cable so you can sit in your car and crank and watch that too, so you don't have to leave this out here and whatnot. Anyway, there are cheaper ones you can buy on the market, and they're all pretty low quality. You can find them on eBay or whatever with either some weird brand name or no brand at all, and they're just kind of half-assed thrown together, and they'll give you somewhat decent numbers and whatever. Well, whatever your engine gives you, but they'll just give you the raw numbers, and you'll have to go calculate them on fox.ca. And well, this one is great because it does it all for you. It just calculates it based on your altitude and whatever. You don't have to go and do that. I would like to use other compression testers side by side with this on the same engine, just to, you know, see how it is versus this. But you know, consistently these have shown to be accurate more times than not. Unless there's some sort of weird defect with it, which they do have a warranty with them. But I feel very comfortable purchasing this versus any of those, you know, cheaper ones that are just half-assed thrown together and look like it too. So next we actually got to go ahead and do the test. Now, before you actually start using it, what you want to do, because it does say this in the instructions, is connect your sensor to the cord right here and turn it on and just let it sit for 3 minutes. That'll calibrate it to your altitude and all that stuff, so you get the most accurate numbers and stuff like that. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. Here's the instructions right here. Let's go through here. Let's see, for an RX8, you want to unplug your ESS sensor, and then you want to go in your fuse box and you want to pull your fuel pump fuse so it doesn't send fuel to the engine and there's no spark, so it won't, you know, start and do some weird stuff with plugs connected. So let's see, where is the fuel pump? Oh, fuel right there. So this guy right here, and then your ESS sensor is down there. Oh yeah, it's under that pulley. Yeah. Oh, and if you're wondering why there is no AC compressor belt on, well, that kind of shit the bed on me, so yeah, I just took it out. Anyway, that's something for another day. This is what we're doing today. So disconnect that fuse, pull the ESS sensor, and then when you actually do the test, it's kind of a mess over here. When you do the test, when you plug it into the spark plug holes, you don't want to do one trailing, one leading, because it'll give you, well, it won't give you inconsistent numbers. It'll give you numbers for that rotor on that plug hole. But there is a slight difference between compression numbers between spark plug holes. So when you do the test, make sure you use the same hole. So if you do trailing on the rear, plug it into the trailing on the front. If you do leading on the rear, do leading on the front. Just don't mismatch them, and you'll get the most accurate numbers and stuff like that. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. It is a little bit difficult to get to the spark plugs on the RX8. You can get to them from the top, but it's easier just to pull the front driver's side wheel off and, you just go in through that way, because that's how you change spark plugs too. Unlike this heap of dog shit where everything is just right there, so well, you don't have to do anything. Just reach down, pull them out, pop it in, crank it. Well, of course, with all the other stuff in mind too. And well, it's that simple on these older setups. And I'm doing a lot of different stuff over here, which I'll probably do a video on, later. But now enough blabbing. Let's get to actually, testing this $600 piece of shit. Perfect motor. Okay, so wheels off, and well, I'm about to start doing all that stuff. But first, one thing you absolutely want to make sure of is that your engine is fully warmed up, or fairly close to being fully warmed up. Now, I did drive this car around quite a bit this morning, so it should be fairly warm still. I'm gonna go ahead and start it. Make sure you're in neutral, especially on a jack stand. I don't mind that knocking noise. That is the pressure plate. I got to take the trans off and figure out what that is, but it doesn't seem to affect anything as driving. But I'm gonna guess that one of the pressure plate bolts backed out, or some of the fingers failed or something. So I got to figure that out. But right now, this is what we're doing. Oh yeah, that knocking noise does go away when I push the clutch in, barely. So yeah, it's definitely the pressure plate. Anyway, gonna let it warm up and show you the poor man's compression test, which is what I did when I first bought this car with the other engine. Okay, so I let it warm up a little bit past when it says it's fully warmed up, because once that second bar goes away, it's only at about 158 or so degrees for water temp. I do need to change the location of my water temp sensor, because that's inaccurate. It's reading off the radiator only. But oil temp, well, it should be good. But yeah, I think that's good enough to do a compression test now. Anyway, here is the poor man's test, which is simply a hot start. Turn it back on. And as you can see, my car starts up no problem on the first try. Hot and whatnot. Okay, so yeah, under here is kind of dirty. I went through some mud a little bit earlier. But anyway, when you do this, it's probably best just to leave one plugged in, and also the wire plugged on top of it. That way you don't mix them up by mistake. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the rear trailing plug hole first, and then we'll just go from there. And also you wanna have some extendy boys, swivelly boy, and a 13/16. And yeah. Now, as you're doing this is a good time to check your plugs, and it does look like I'm running a little on the rich side, so clean these plugs up before I put them back in. But before you connect everything up, you want to take the sensor by itself, ensure that the O-ring on it is in good shape, and you just want to put it in hand tight. You don't want to crank it on there with like a ratchet or something, even though it like has this right here. Don't do that, because you can really fuck the sensor up doing that. Just pop it in hand tight. See if I can get it in there. This is kind of awkward to do with the phone in my hand. So I'll do that and then come back to this. So I did forget one more step. So everything I already set up to this point, including taking this fuel pump fuse out and disconnecting the ESS sensor, but also dry cranking the engine a little bit just to get the fuel out and stuff that's in the engine still. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that real quick. I'm gonna do it for both rotors, but I'm leaving that one in there for now. And we'll just repeat this process later. Okay, so again, make sure you're neutral. And you don't want to do this too much because it does kill your battery. That should be more than enough. And we're gonna go ahead and plug that sensor in and then do the test. Okay, sensor's in there, nice and firm. And again, make sure you only do this hand tight. You do not want to crank it down or anything like that, because you can and will damage the sensor doing that. Then you just plug it in there, and then we're ready to crank away. Okay, all is good and ready to go. I have that extension cable hooked on so I can be in here and do this. So, click it on. This also assumes that you already let it just sit for about 3 or so minutes, just on its own. So now, we can go ahead and begin cranking. Make sure it's in neutral again. That is interesting. Not 100% sure what to think about those numbers, but average 100s across the board. It's still not bad. Okay, now for the front rotor. Give it a sec. Okay then. Okay, now that it's all done, make sure you just button everything back up. Make sure you tighten down your spark plugs and connect them back up. Put your fuel pump fuse and reconnect your ESS sensor, and you should be ready to start. Now, it will crank a little bit slower. It won't turn over as fast, or kick over and turn on as fast, just because there's no fuel in the motor anymore. But after this, you should be fine, especially if your compression numbers are good, which these are still really good. And after you finish doing everything, you button everything back up. I'm gonna go ahead and start it back up for some reason. Just let it prime and get fuel in there. It'll take a bit to warm up, but yeah, just let it get. Oh, it's probably because they're cranking without stuff connected. I'm gonna guess it's something to do with either ESS or the fuel pump. So we'll see what that is and clear it after. I just let it run, get up to operating temperature, then shut it back off, and you're good to go. But above everything else, the most important thing here is that compression numbers across all faces are about dead even. So the engine will run for quite some time like this, and well, next time I change the spark plugs, I'll test it again and see where it's at, just to be able to keep track of where compression is at throughout its mechanical life. Okay, so it's been a couple days since I did all the compression test stuff, and the results were a little confusing to me at first because, well, based on all the measurements and stuff like that, I thought that this motor should have been somewhere in the 120s on a hot test, but my mistake was going based off of the cold test I did back in 2014 when I first got the car, a total 2009 RX8 R3 that this motor came out of. At that time, that motor had exactly 18,887 original miles on it. When I tore it down and did a super thorough refresh on it, replaced the side sills with exact cut ones to 4 thousandths clearance, and then reused everything else except for one corner seal. I did have to replace that. I didn't have to, I just lost one. Yeah, that's what happened with that. But apex sills, corner sills, and stuff like that, I reused. Oh yeah, and the oil control rings, because those virtually had no wear. Those take a really long time to wear out. You should be able to see somewhere north of like 300,000 miles out of oil control rings. So yeah, there's absolutely zero need to replace those. But apex sills, they measured at 5.2 millimeters each, whereas brand new ones are 5.3 millimeters, and minimum spec is 4.3 millimeters. So those apex sills had 90% life left in them, and that kind of answers some of my confusion a little bit better, because I didn't take that into account either. Now on the cold test, it it pretty much would have been like 120 psi or something like that, plus, you know, 120 to 130, somewhere around there. I'll put the results right here, the fox.ca corrected ones, and those are the cold tests. Those are the cold numbers, or based on the raw cold numbers. So when I did the hot test, it went lower because, of course, it was a hot test. That's where things weren't exactly clicking at first. That's where my confusion came in. But it made a lot more sense when I realized, oh wait, hot versus cold. Because when the engine's hot, things expand, and well, your compression goes down with heat. So after talking with some people, they said that when they did hot versus cold test on their own motors, on the same motors, they were seeing anywhere from 10 to 15 psi lower than with the cold test. And that makes a lot more sense. I would like to do a cold test on this with the RCT compression tester. It's kind of a redundant statement, isn't it? RCT compression tester. The RCT version 5.2. I think that's the full name of it. I don't have it in front of me, so I don't actually remember that right now. But anyway, enough of that shit. Yeah, I would like to do a cold test just to see what the cold numbers are corrected on that compression tester. But when I also did the raw numbers off that compression tester on fox.ca, they were pretty close to those results too. The fox.ca results were a little bit higher, but I trust the RCT one a lot more, just because it goes based off of where you're at exactly with the barometric sensor thing in it. Steve Miracle can answer questions on that stuff a lot better than I ever can, because I don't understand all of that. All I know is that it takes the numbers, it does the thing, and it gives you corrected numbers and whatnot. But let's see, at the time that this was tested, there was a little bit less than 25,000 original miles, technically. I mean, it's torn down and refreshed. It's not really a rebuild, but you can still call it original miles because, well, mostly all the same shit was reused. So just short of 25,000 miles on this engine at this point. And keeping in mind that the Apex Hills have 90% life left in them, that means 10% of the Apex Hill life was taken in 25,000 miles. Times that by about 10, this is potentially a 250,000 or more mile motor. Now, whether or not I actually keep this engine in the car for that duration of time, or mileage or whatever, I don't know. I'll probably build an actual perfect renesis before then, and, well, replace this engine with it and do something with this. I don't know. But when we get to that point, we'll see. But anyway, I'm very happy with my consistent results and stuff like that. Oh yeah, that's another thing I wanted to touch on too, because I touched on this topic a lot with the half-ass Killer B, is consistent side seal clearance. This is why I replaced all the side seals with new ones, cut to exactly 4 thousandths clearance. The reason I didn't do 2 thousandths clearance like the Killer B is because, well, the renesis heats up the side seals a lot more with those side exhaust ports. That's why they're thicker on the outside, thinner on the inside. And yeah, but if you look at the old compression numbers versus the current ones, the overall compression ratio between faces is a lot closer and a lot tighter. So on the half-ass Killer B, the full range of compression numbers is within 5 psi of each other, and on each rotor it's within 3 psi. That's mainly what I was aiming for on that motor. On this one, it was more or less the same, but of course with a better conditioned parts and stuff like that. And let's see, I think the biggest gap on this motor was like 6 psi, and on a renesis, it's really hard to get perfect exact clearance and stuff like that. Even though I measured them and measured them again over and over again, there's still a little bit more variance than it was on that one. just because it's a lot easier to cut side seals on the older rotors and stuff like that than it is on renesis rotors, just because of their design and stuff like that. But with all that in mind, I'm very happy with the numbers. I'm very happy with the consistency of the numbers, and that's what contributes to why this motor runs so goddamn smooth. Also, those matching front and rear auto counterweights out of the same motor. So enough blabbing. This probably made the video a lot longer than it should have been, but hopefully that explains most of everything. Whatever other questions you have about the compression tester itself, go ahead and get a hold of Steve Miracle on Facebook or through his Facebook page, which I think is just rotarycompressiontester.com or something like that. Or just go to the website. The website will be down below. And I'll probably link the Facebook page too, or something like that. Anyway, that's it for this video. See ya.